Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Now, Cliff Hughes just dropped a political bombshell. According to Nationwide News, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is expected to call the general elections this Sunday evening in Halfway Tree, St. Andrew. But here is the real shocker. Hughes says Holness has earned his third term. Is this bold leadership or political manipulation? Now, this is what we are seeing in Jamaica. Veteran journalist Cliff Hughes of Nationwide has just revealed the Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, is expected to call general elections this Sunday evening in Halfway Tree. And Hughes claims that Holness has earned his bid for a third term in office. Now, this is extremely important as we reported yesterday evening on Holness's alleged corruption charges. Now, we have been hearing responses coming from the likes of Cliff Hughes and Nationwide in particular, who have been defending the Prime Minister. And according to Cliff Hughes, we must look at the class tensions and the class divisions in Jamaica. Now, that is true, that we must understand that Jamaica is a highly hierarchical and classist society. So, he suggested, for example, that people question the fact that where is he, who is he, that's Cliff Hughes, to have owned and to be owning Nationwide as a Black Jamaican from Rockford? He's suggesting, of course, that he is coming from the bowels of the working class, and so is Andrew Holness. And he's arguing from that perspective that because Andrew Holness is coming from the bowels of the working class, there are elements in Jamaica, particularly among the elites, who wish to see him dethroned because he has been able to have successfully chartered his way up on the high scale of the power structure, of the hierarchical power structure in Jamaica. And that's a solid point. However, we understand that Dr. Andrew Holness was selected. We know that, that Edward Sierra was preparing him for this position from the 1990s. So Dr. Andrew Holness is no person who has really, as we can say, earned it 100%. To some extent, he was just at the right place at the right time, and he landed within the power structure, within the hands of those persons who were influential, such as the likes of Edward Seaga, among others of his contacts. So that is not really a solid argument that Cliff Hughes has projected, he has highlighted. I don't think that that is a solid point. I think that Holness, to some extent, has been fed with a golden spoon. He says that he has not. And I would like you to know, just before we get to that, let us hear Cliff Hughes talking about the election date and what he is gathering from the persons with his correspondents, the ones who have revealed that information to him, that the elections will be called this Sunday. Let's listen to Cliff Hughes.
With the politics, nothing turns on Jamaican outside of the bedroom like politics. Yeah? Right, Sonia? By the way, good morning, Sonia Stewart. Sonia Stewart is my producer. Oh, Norige Banton is off for another week. So it will be Sonia and myself and Kevin, and of course, members of the news and production team. There's a lot to talk about. Yeah? Politics. Well, the first thing I must share with you, I understand that the Prime Minister will announce the election date come Sunday in Halfway Tree. Yeah? That's our understanding. We don't know for sure, but I gather The announcement will be made sometime Sunday evening in Halfway Tree in St. Andrew. Halfway Tree has been a popular place for prime ministers to announce elections over the last 3 decades. It wasn't so in September 2020 because of COVID.
Okay, so that is what Cliff Hughes is here suggesting, that the elections will be called based on what he has heard from his correspondence, from persons that, relay information to him. Now, that is good because the election fever is high, and I think Jamaicans want the election to be called and to be gotten over with. Now, Cliff Hughes really went into a long argument, presenting cogent points as to why the Gleaner reported yesterday and spoke about Andrew Holness's alleged corruption charges and his alleged enrichment activities, illicit enrichment activities. But what I don't understand from our journalists in Jamaica, we have an investigative journalist by the name of Zara Burke, who has been reporting these stories probably 3-4 years ago, right? And I think long before, she has been publishing these stories. And I want to show you a picture of Zara Burke, and because she is an excellent investigative journalist that we have in Jamaica, Zara Burton, and she is the publisher of 18 Degrees North. So those of you who do not know her, she has a Substack, and you can go there and you can subscribe to her Substack. But she is a well-trained investigative journalist, and she has been reporting about Andrew Holness's illicit enrichment activities for some years now, maybe for over a decade, I would think. Now, listen to what our today, no, this is coming from the Wire Media. Is it Wire Media? And Jamaica Shadow Money, the gaps in Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness's financial investigation. Now, listen to how this story is presented, or how the article is opened up. In a penetrating investigation that peels back layers of financial opacity, veteran journalist Zara Burton has exposed critical blind spots in Jamaica's Integrity Commission's probe of Prime Minister Andrew Holness's wealth accumulation. The investigation, published in 18th North, that is www.18degrees North TV, reveals how the Commission's narrow temporal focus may have missed the most crucial period of Holness's financial evolution. And that is what happens. They always miss the point, and we end up debating things that are just trifling. So you will hear the likes of Cliff Hughes say, for example, that, oh, Andrew Holness, when you look at the amount of money that they're saying that he has been enriched by, it's just a paltry $1 million. And that his competitors, those who are opposing him, they have accumulated millions of dollars. But because Andrew Holness, according to Cliff Hughes, is coming from the working class, he's coming from an impoverished home and did not grow up with the elite families of Jamaica, he's been targeted by them. And it's a very important conversation to have. That is a very important conversation to have now, but not with regards to Andrew Holness. He has graduated into their class. Now, let me know that even though he has graduated into their class, doesn't mean that they fully accept him. Another thing is that it doesn't mean that he is working on your behalf. They're having their struggles. They're having their tit for tat at that level. It does not mean that you and I are a part of the club. And that is what we have to understand. Andrew Holness is not representing the voice of ordinary people in Jamaica. He's not. But certainly there are tensions within that class in terms of his going up for a third consecutive term in office. And among these financial elites who want to be closer to state fund, they're having their conflicts of interest there, and it spills over into the populace, and we are asked to defend one or the other. I'm not defending any of them because, as I'm suggesting to you, they don't represent you, neither do they represent me, right? We have to understand that. At the heart of Burton's expose lies ADMAT Incorporated, an offshore company registered in St. Lucia. So this is in St. Lucia. So when they're telling us that he has all of this money, and it's far more money he has and assets, but they're undisclosed because they are in offshore tax havens. All right. But the gleaner knows that and knows that many of these so-called rich millionaires and billionaires in Jamaica, that is how the show runs. Between 2008 and 2011, executed property purchases totaling 57.1 million Jamaican dollars. That's 692,478 US dollars without any registered mortgages. Okay? This occurred during a period when Holness's annual salary as Minister of Education averaged a modest 5.2 million Jamaican dollars. That's 62,513 US dollars. The Commission's decision not to investigate the source of ADMAT's funds represents what US-based Jamaican CPA Ian Nelson calls totally missing the boat. All right? So what we're hearing, what we are expending a lot of energy on, debating whether, his sudden increase in wealth is now standing at millions of dollars, as they're suggesting. But when we look at what Holness is doing and the fact that he has also other undisclosed wealth in registered companies abroad, we can't say. And this is what we want the journalists now to unpack, which they're not doing, but we're going to be having fuss over, oh, that's not a lot of money and all of that. And then Andrew Holness ends up winning and the corruption charges continue. They continue unabated because Jamaicans don't know how to think. You're allowing the media to present information to you and you believe that that is where the buck stops, but that's not where the buck stops. The numbers which laid bare paint a picture of remarkable financial acrobatics. In 2002, Holness and his wife struggled to put together a 1.67 million Jamaican dollars down payment for their first home, requiring 2 mortgages. Yet by 2007, Holness declared liquid assets of $472,531, a transformation that CPA Nelson sardonically describes as the work of a financial wizard, because that's what they are. Burton's investigation meticulously tracks a series of property acquisitions that strain financial credulity. 2008, ADMAT purchases at an Acadia Drive apartment for 16 million Jamaican dollars. 2009, a Beverly Hills lot acquisition for $15,275,000. 2011, I beg your pardon, a US 300,000 Shenstone Drive land purchase. This is coming from Andrew Holness, which was barely receiving or on a $5 million or less at the time salary. Perhaps most tellingly, during the same period, ADMAT invested over 100,000 US dollars in government of Jamaica global bonds, raising the total unexplained expenditure to 64.46 million Jamaican dollars. That's 792,478,000 US dollars. And this is the home that Andrew Holness resides in. Okay? The investigation raises particular concerns about the Commission's selective temporal focus, despite having the authority to investigate historical periods. And this is what I'm saying, that they're playing a chess game with you, and you don't understand that. Okay? You don't understand that, as evidenced by previous probes dating back to 2006. The Commission chose not to examine ADMAT's crucial formative years. This decision leaves substantial questions about the thoroughness of their investigation. By 2020, the combined net worth of Admat's, Imperium's assets and Holness's personal assets had grown to 185,000 million Jamaican dollars, over 1.3 million US dollars. A 150 million increase from 2007. The Commission's certification of these assets was done, in their own words, mainly on the face of what was presented. What was presented, but we don't know that which has not been presented. Okay? Burton's investigation culminates with a revealing discovery about 3 Holness-linked companies that filed nil tax returns, despite they showing intercompany deposits and withdrawals of 473 million Jamaican dollars and 427 million Jamaican dollars, respectively, between 2020 and June 2023. The piece closes with an open question about whether Jamaica's Financial Investigations Division or Tax Administration will probe deeper into these financial mysteries. Okay? As Burton notes, while the Integrity Commission may have concluded its investigation, the source of Admat's funds remains an elephant in the room that no official body has yet dared to fully examine. So we are having this conversation about what was reported in the Green Room yesterday, which I reported. But I did say in my video yesterday also that we do not know the half of the story. The half of the story in Jamaica is never revealed. And then people begin now to argue over the nonsensicals, not understanding that if you delve even deeper, you realize that Andrew Holness might have much more wealth than we are arguing over. Okay? Because of the fact that they can hide their investments in tax havens. Very important that we understand that. This investigative report stands as a masterclass in financial journalism, and she's very good, demonstrating how the most important stories often lie not in what was investigated, but in what was overlooked. I repeat that. The most important stories often lie not in what was investigated, but in what was overlooked. Okay? And oftentimes, what was overlooked is not what they're talking about in the media. And you get carried away by that. Oh, they're trying to get at Andrew Holness. He has worked hard for his money. He has earned everything, and he says so. And I wanted you to listen to end this video to what Cliff Hughes is going to wrap up and say about the class tensions in Jamaica and the fact that Andrew Holness deserves, he has earned, according to Cliff Hughes, a 3rd term in office. I don't know how he has earned it even before getting it, but that's what Cliff Hughes is suggesting. Through meticulous documentation and expert analysis, Burton has illuminated the shadows that persist in the highest echelons of Jamaica's political leadership. Okay, it's not only Andrew Holness. This has to do with the cancer of corruption that exists on the political landscape in Jamaica. It has nothing to do only with Andrew Holness. It's a corruption, it's a culture of corruption that is deeply entrenched in Jamaica's culture. And Cliff Hughes is sort of, what should I say now? He's merging, as it were. He's conflating the fact that Andrew Holness is coming from the bowels of the working class and how he's being attacked by the upper echelons of society, because they're saying he has passed his nest, which to some extent, some people might think so, of course, because we know we live in a classist society. But we're not here also, because we understand that, to ignore the fact that Andrew Holness might also be involved in corrupt activities, in which a lot of his wealth is largely undeclared in tax havens abroad. But that is what it is, and you have to do your own research. Many of you are lazy, and you just have to do your research. You've got to do your own research. You've got to read more. You've got to investigate more. Okay. Now, let us now look at what Cliff Hughes is wrapping up his thing. I think this could be here, where he started talking about the classism in Jamaica and how many people look down on people who are trying to make it, particularly those of us who are coming from the bowels of the working class. Okay, so let me have you listen to what Cliff Hughes is saying. I think it is here. All right. Okay, good.
Story in the Cleaner yesterday. What did he invest in? Multiple businesses and accompanying investments, assets. Yeah. Businesses such as deposits in failed unregulated investment schemes like Cash Plus and Olint. Yes. That's what he had to invest. He also had to invest in
But you know, Cliff Hughes is not saying that that Cash Plus and Olint were unregulated companies. And he's not suggesting that many poor Jamaican families invested their monies in these two institutions and they failed and they did not get back their principal. He's not saying that. What he's suggesting here is that, yeah, that's what he had to do. There was no other way. There was no other investment company in which he could have used his money. He could have invested his money. So he invested in Cash Plus and he, reaped benefits from Cash Plus. But what about the hundreds of Jamaicans who also used their investments and savings, invested into Cash Plus and Holland, and lost everything? He's not saying that because Cliff Hughes obviously doesn't care, right? Okay, very interesting, and I found that very dishonest about the point this guy was rendering. And that's why you have to have your head firmly planted on your bodies, because these people can really use language. And he's good. Give him his credit. He's able to put cogent arguments together. But if you don't know your facts, and if you're not aware of Jamaica's history and the political machinery, the political system that exists in Jamaica, you are going to fall flat on the ground. You are going to listen to Cliff Hughes' charming language and his mastery of the English language. Give him his credit.
a taxi company. Yeah. Him a hustle to start. That's what he had to do. Him never get a break. Figure open investment bank. Yeah. He never get that. But no. He used to be seen as a thief. Him reached too far. Him reached too far. And that's why when he said last night, he's seen as a disruptor. Yeah. And I can tell you, I understand it. It has been thrown at me. This is a poor black boy from Rock, from a own media company, radio station. Yeah? That's not, you know your place. That is the attitude.
And
that is the attitude.
True to an extent.
Play the clip.
Story of my life is that I have never been given anything free.
Is that true?
I've had to work for anything that I've had.
Wasn't the Prime Minister directly put into his hand after Bruce Golding limited office? Did he work for that? I don't think he worked for it. There was not an election after Bruce Golding limited office, right? And he was not really, well, he was next in line in terms of the fact that Edward Seger wanted him, but there were other guys who were senior to him, older than him, who had had more experience, and they were overlooked because, of course, he was the guy next in line. And that is how our political system and the political hierarchy works in Jamaica. If this person is next in line, they're next in line. After Michael Manley left office, PJ was next in line. After PJ left office, Portia Simpson Miller was next in line. And you could see, even though others challenged the next heir to the throne, oftentimes they don't win, because that is how the system is set up. So the fact of the matter, most of them who become prime ministers are selected by political leaders and their financial donors. We've got to understand that. So for him to suggest that he's worked, it doesn't mean, therefore, that you haven't got to do some work. And we can't deny the fact that Andrew Holness has done some work. But to suggest that he got everything through hard work and through hard labor, maybe after, yes, when he was challenging the other guys for that party leadership. But again, what was happening behind the scenes? It seems to me that the financial elites preferred him because he was next in line to the throne, and they knew that. Okay?
I have said it before and I will say it again. I don't know what a gold spoon looks like. It has never been in my mouth. I have no inheritance or any endowment or any trust fund anywhere. Whatever I have worked hard and honestly for it.
And you know, and this honesty that the Prime Minister is coming with, when we think about OLENT, when we think about SSL and all of these unregulated companies, that's what they are. They're unregulated, and people who are getting all these interests, they didn't work for it. You know, they worked for the money, the principle that they've put in, but a lot of them got all of these high interests that they did not really earn. And that is why these companies always, they always evaporate into thin air. They always evaporate into thin air. And then, people like the Holness, which is connected, or who is connected to these elites, he's able to pull his money out before they collapse. And that's exactly what happened to Olin, to Cash Plus, not Cash Plus, SSL. So his government, the GLP party, I shouldn't say his government, but his party presided over the collapse of both Olint and Cash Plus, right? And also SSL. Andrew Holness's GLP party. And he's going to say that the GLP party, whatever they do is always well earned, is everything that they have is what they earn. And that is not true to a large extent. Not everything. Some of the things, yes. And we have to give him credit that he has to get out on the roads and he has to present himself. He has to electioneer. He has to politic. And he does a very good job of it. And it is hard. We're not suggesting this job is not a very easy job, and it's not for the faint of heart. But we must understand that everything is not always as they say it. There are things which are given to them, which are not given to us.
I have never gained wealth by exploiting the people. No. And I want to say to you that my ethic is that I believe in working for what I have. By the sweat of my brow, I shall eat bread. And that is the ethic of the Jamaica Labour Party. We work for what we have. And in the same way, we are...
Yeah, so I'm going to stop here.
Minister, on the political platform.
Yeah, so that is what he's suggesting, that he has had to work for everything that he has earned. He's earned everything. And Cliff Hughes is intimating that Andrew Holness has earned a third term in office. In other words, he should be given it. He should be given it because he has a decorated track record. Okay? An impressive track record. And he mentioned the booklet that he distributed to the people in Half a Tree. Very colorful looking, very eye-grabbing, but I really wonder how much did that cost for him to present that sort of booklet into the hands of Jamaicans, right? I really wonder how much that cost at a time when people are having it very, very difficult, right? It's very difficult for them to survive. And all of this is politicking. I don't care how impressive the points might be. Okay? But Andrew Holness is scheduled, as Cliff Hughes has suggested, to call the election this coming Sunday in Half-a-Tree. Are you ready? Are you ready? And do you think that Andrew Holness is going to, or he deserves, has earned a third term in office? Please let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Like the video so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. See you in another one. Ciao.